to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm to help it. But to me, it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary.
That was former President Donald Trump in just the last couple of hours, doubling down on his tariff plan to an audience of 600 business executives at the Chicago Economic Club. The GOP nominee plans to use tariffs to raise revenue for the United States, while claiming foreign countries will have to pay the price rather than Americans. With just 20 days from the election, neither Trump nor Vice President Harris, though, has broken away. As Fox News just put out new power rankings for the presidential race, we have the forecast. The forecast shows the road to 270 is going to be a toss-up. Harris is forecast to win at least 226 electoral votes, with Trump securing at least 219, leaving 7 states, which equals about 93 votes, down the middle. As both candidates try to lure voters with their respective economic plans, I want to bring in former senior counselor to President Trump and campaign manager during the 2016 election, Fox News contributor Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, when you hear him say tariff is the most beautiful word, what goes through your mind?
What goes through my mind is that President Trump means to put incentives, not mandates, in a system. So recently he said, hey, I'm going to get the corporate tax rate down to 15% if you want to produce in America. I know he's got the heart of an exporter, not an importer. He doesn't understand why we are importing all of these goods and services from foreign countries that don't buy our own. And he wants made in America, made in the USA to be the standard, the rule, not the exception. And he did make significant moves in that direction, particularly early in his term pre-COVID, and would again. Look, when it comes to tariffs, many of our private trades, our union households, many American workers, non-college educated households, hear tariff and they hear him say, it's going to be more fair for you, more reciprocal for the United States of America. Where are the trade deals from Biden-Harris? Where's the economic plan that actually has growth in it? So I think tariffs are both a tool and a policy. And when asked previously how he would pay for some of these tariffs, President Trump has made very clear that he would undo things like Build Back Better if he can, or the Green New Deal, all this stuff that caused us to spend money we don't have on things we don't need and didn't quite ask for. Last point, I don't think you're going to find many Americans disagreeing with a president, particularly a center-right capitalist president, arguing that we need to get tougher on China. And one of the many ways to do so, in addition to, frankly, getting their fentanyl out of this country, making sure they're not persecuting the Uyghurs, not militarily invading Taiwan, not doing these forced technology transfers, is through tariffs and trade policy. Donald Trump had brand new trade deals with China, with Japan, with Korea, with Mexico and Canada, and he was on the verge of working one out with the EU when COVID hit and shut everything down.
Okay, so there's a lot there. Absolutely. But let's tackle some of this. And you say that Americans really want to see this kind of thing. And it does sound really good when you say that you're going to charge, meaning slap tariffs on countries that obviously have tariffs on our goods. But the Wall Street Journal just did a poll, and it's the one they've been doing for 50 years. They poll a bunch of economists. I know, roll your eyes here, because economists always have different thoughts. But economists say inflation and deficits will be higher under Donald Trump than Harris. Now, in there, they said that both have policies that are inflationary. Okay, let's definitely make that clear. But Trump has proposed tax cuts on overtime pay, Social Security benefits, breaks for auto loan interest, bringing back state and local tax deductions. But when you look at the tariff part of it, and this is really important to me, and I wanted to be really clear about this, the Wall Street Journal also pointed out, better to tax foreign entities for entering the American market than impose new taxes on American families sounds really good. It's emotionally resonant, but at odds with economic theory and mountains of evidence. American consumers, not foreign producers, will bear any tariffs brunt. What do you say to that? This is a journal.
I'd say that President Trump heard that before, and he was presented with that particular report and study today at the Chicago Economic Club. Liz, as you know, from a pretty hostile moderator in John Micklethwaite. I think the way that President Trump is sometimes treated by folks who invite him to have a conversation so that we, the voters, can understand what the policies are, what's at stake for us. We're trying to pay the monthly bills. We're trying to save a little bit for a rainy day or a sunny day. And yet with the presumptive negativity, the hostility, and President Trump, I think, brushed him back by basically saying, I've heard all this before. And you predicted it about my tariffs the first time. You also predicted about my economy, and everybody was wrong. I can tell you from the perspective of voters, when it comes to inflation and the overall economy, Americans are far more trusting of President Trump than Vice President Harris. Why? Because they lived through both economies. They are living through inflationary pressures right now. Not just the cost of gas and groceries, that's a 3.5-year example, Liz, but we see the cost of housing, and rent, and mortgages. We see the auto loans, the insurance, the utilities, the repairs. So I think people are going to look at the economic plans in full. And if I were Vice President Harris, I wouldn't have tried to distance myself so much from the Biden-Harris administration and try to sound like some kind of middle-class tax cutter. I would have stayed the course, and then you'd have more credibility hitting Trump on things like tariffs. And I would point out to everybody, Kamala Harris refused to do that same interview. She was also invited to go to the Chicago Economic Club. The men on her campaign somehow don't want the woman to talk to audiences like that.
Actually, she's going to be on Bret Baier tomorrow on Fox News, and that is a multi-million audience, so she's going to reach a lot more people there.
Yes, it is.
Let me just give Bret a shout out for that. That's going to be tomorrow. But
oh yeah,
the Wall Street Journal also said this about inflation, that inflation under Trump, prices would rise faster than under Harris. So if you look at that, 68% said prices would rise faster under Trump than under Harris. A lot of this is tied to the tariff aspect, but a lot of it is tied to, listen, both of them are making all kinds of freebie promises about cutting taxes here, cutting taxes there. And as we watch this deficit, $2 trillion, and the debt, $35 trillion and climbing. I checked the debt clock recently, and like this morning, and it was $35.2 trillion. Not pretty. I just wonder, where do we hear the cutting? And Donald Trump does poll way better on the economy. People trust him more with the economy. That is very clear. But that said, where is the discussion of, I've really got to cut government spending? And that may mean entitlements.
Liz, I'm with you on that. I'm an old-fashioned Republican when it comes to debt and cutting government where it makes sense, where it is intrusive, invasive, expensive, and expansive. And we can all come up with many programs and extra fat in there that we think would qualify. I do hope President Trump will come out with a plan like that. But let me just say this. Only one of them, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, voted into law, actually signed into law or voted at all for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. Why is this important? Because it's set to expire next year. And if it does, we're all in big trouble. Because people probably don't realize they're living under that. They were living under the deregulatory agenda. They were living under energy independence, where we were net exporters of natural gas and oil for the first time in American history under Trump. Now we're energy dependent. They're pausing the LNG permits to make them climate change compliant, which means Putin is selling fuel to Eastern and Western Europe.
We're producing
are
more
hostile to the oil and gas
than we ever
industries.
have. We're at record production here in this country. I know you know that.
But why? So all the more reasons why attack the Keystone Pipeline jobs on day one and cancel them? Why attack oil and gas and go after fossil fuels?
Excellent question. I agree with you on that.
And then fly around in the Air Force One and the Air Force Two. No, and I think these Tax Cut and Jobs Act conversation needs to be part of the overall conversation about who is better for the American people, not just your kitchen table cappuccino counter considerations, but really for small businesses. I think small businesses, Liz, get lost in this larger conversation. We're talking to individual taxpayers, mothers and fathers. Let's talk to moms and pops, because I remember that the NFIB survey of small businesses had just consecutive months of confidence under President Trump. And just last month, when I addressed the National Association of Manufacturers here in D.C., right before President Trump called into their meeting the next day, we had the 31st consecutive month of the NFIB survey of small businesses being negative. They said that they can't get ahead. I really think as we go into these last couple weeks, we should be focusing on the effect of tariffs, the effect of taxes, regulations, energy policy, all of it with respect to small businesses, because people know it's the bedrock, the heart and soul of our country. And Liz, people also know, even if they are not an owner or an employee of a small business, we're pro-entrepreneurial. We really applaud and appreciate and lift up and try to support and help survive and thrive those small businesses in this country.
Kellyanne, great to see you, and thank you very much for coming
Thank you.
on. We appreciate it. Kellyanne Conway.
I appreciate it. All the best.
To you too.